Hello, my friends. It occurred to me that I had not discussed what is racism, and that's really got to be one of the biggest misunderstandings out there with that whole race idea. So people use that word so loosely, and I really want to warn you that when you use words that you don't understand what they mean, you personally, like you don't really have a real good meaning for it, but you sort of have an implied meaning that you're not going to understand each other when you're talking to people. So we really need to get a common ground. It's so well-known problem in any kind of project when you're trying to communicate and people just don't have the same word, but they're using it in different ways. So racism, first of all, implies an understanding about race. So you have to say, what is your idea about race? Do you think that you understand that there's three races in the world or something like that? And then who's in those races? Of course, I don't believe in that. I think it's much more complicated, the genetic variation in the world. If you wanted to try to group people based on their bloodlines, genetic analysis can show you that's a pretty complicated situation. We're all intermixed. We've all mixed quite a bit. So in the last million years. So what are you going to do, for the racist? And when I say racist, let's just start by saying racist is someone at least believes in race and thinks it's important. So there's the white people, let's say, and the black people. That would be a racist idea. So I believe that there's a black race and they can hang together. I think the Jewish people are the real racist. Not the real racist. They're also really racist because they believe that you're Jewish if your mother's Jewish. Isn't that right? I'm not a real expert in Jewish culture, but I think they even think it's not just a culture, or a religion is a part of culture, but it's a race. Like that you're born Jewish or something like that. So again, it's just an effort to sort of be, isolated in terms of genetics. I don't think that it works. So from a scientific point of view, but if you do, okay, this would be how you'd start to define a racist. Be someone that first believes in race, says, no, Tom, you're wrong. There are races. I know, because I'm a racist. Let's maybe see that's tricky, right? Racist. Of course, racist has this implication that you're sort of negative or something. But let's just put that aside. Again, we need to use these words accurately. Racist. Racist, let's just say, just common sense would tell you that would be someone who believes in race and makes it central in their sort of worldview. Okay? That would be a perfect definition if you can handle that for racism. For race and racists, I mean. And then racism would be sort of an analysis of how that racist thinks. Is there racism? Ooh, that's very elegant, right? There's a race. You first believe there's races. Then a racist is someone who goes and sorts people by these races. And then racism would be you go deep, characterize how that person thinks. That with their racism, for example, Hitler, he believed he was a racist, right? He believed in race. There was the Aryan race. There was these Jews. And I think that he thought, I'm not an expert in that. I've never read that book, Mein Kampf, right? But somehow he believed that there was these races and that he could determine the Jewish race, that he thought that was a race, by their skull and stuff like that, and their nose shape, or I don't know, something. And then, it's funny because if you look at his generals, they probably fit that description, but that's okay. He's a little confused, okay? And all things have a reason. He had a hard childhood. Don't think he was born a devil. He was born a good child like you and me. Has had bad experiences, like a lot of systemically disenfranchised people have in this world. So at any rate, and he's probably sexually molested, which R. Kelly was also. Again, everything's logical. That's a whole other discussion. I'm not even going to get into that. Human development. So the race, you have to believe in that, and you got your racist and racism. Well, let's just say there's the white people then. Again, I disagree with all this, but let's just go with it for a minute. So there's the white people, there's the black people. They got the white power, and then the black power. So that's this idea that's really, let's say that's racist. That's racism. So those are racists who believe in their racism. Their racism. Okay? So all you people, I'm calling you right now, all these people say black culture. You know what? Okay, now that's a little more tricky. Because when they say black culture, that's a racist word for a culture. Now the culture is real. There's no question about that. Because you could say it's just the soul food, soul music, basketball, rap music, and the history of the descendants of the slaves. Okay, let's just say that. That would be a culture. Now, why would it be sort of race oriented and racist? And why would it be racism, Dodge, even, to call that the black people? Because when you say the black people, you're thinking about their skin color. You're not talking about soul food. You may be implying it a little bit. You probably, if you've never been with those people, you might even not even know what soul food is. So then all of a sudden they're the black people. And then if you say black power, oh, well, you're definitely, verging on, fascism. Fascism is where when you take some of those ideas. I'm not an expert in fascism, but so when you take some of those ideas and start to develop a national kind of identity, like Louis Farrakhan, okay, so that'd be like fascism, and start to say, hey, you're in, you're out based on this race, and that's probably totally incorrect with fascism, but it's not totally incorrect. That's probably at least 50% correct. So I'll try and study up on my fascism. I know Mussolini and Hitler Mussolini started that word fascism, so I need to look at the history of that and how he really originally used that word. Again, the focus is on the word. What is the real word? Now, I really want to warn you, particularly USA citizens, when you say fascism and you just know what it means. It's Trump, right? He's a fascist. But you better be careful because you're not going to understand what you're talking about. Life is short. The meaning of life is to have a warm heart. And if you want to organize that effort to bring into realization the meaning of life, that you would then have a warmer heart and be warmer, all these things, when you think something is cold and you're going to combat it, such as fascism, you need to know what you're talking about. And so you can control that path to minimizing that coldness and negative energy. So that's all. So a little definition of at least of racism. Yeah, racism, racist. Please comment if you disagree. I would love to hear other perspectives. Say, Tom, you're wrong. It's not racism. Race does not deal with genetics. What does it deal with then? Tell me about that. Okay? Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.